Welcome to Vitafriends Voices, a podcast brought to you by Vitaflo, where we will share your stories. Each episode will bring you engaging interviews with inspiring individuals who are either living with a protein disorders or experts at the forefront of their field. Today, we're excited to have Nicole with us on the podcast. In this episode, we'll explore Nicole's journey navigating life with PKU whilst working across the US as a travel nurse. We'll dive into the unique challenges she faces on the road, and she shares some great and very practical life hacks to help her live out her professional dream. Nicole's story is a powerful reminder that living with a rare disease as an adult doesn't mean limiting your dreams. It means finding ways to thrive. So with that in mind, welcome to the Vitafriends Voices podcast, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So just before we begin, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Nicole Weber. I am 30 years old. I have classic PKU. I live in the United States. I'm kind of bopping from state to state right now. And I am a registered nurse. Lately, I've been taking travel contracts, which kind of consists of me working about 6 months in different states around the United States at different hospitals. I am on diet and formula and have been for all my 30 years.
I'm really intrigued by the fact that you are a travel nurse, and it would be really interesting to just hear a little bit more about what that entails day to day, and then how did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I graduated nursing school in Michigan, I did 1 year at a hospital around here where I worked on a progressive care unit. So it's kind of like step down ICU nursing. And then after that 1 year, I kind of wanted to move away. I think I was flirting with the idea of living in a new place. And so I said, I'll just do a couple months in California. And I moved out there, and I haven't moved back to my home state of Michigan since. So when you do travel nursing, you take these individual contracts and go to different hospitals, and you're kind of like self-employed in that sense. I get a really big say in where and when I want to work.
Okay. So like you said, you're bopping about from state to state. So logistically, I suppose, from a PKU perspective, what does that look like?
Yeah, at first it was a little daunting, and I didn't know anyone who was doing what I was doing. So that was kind of uncharted territory for me. Logistically with PKU, my formula will still get shipped to my parents' address in Michigan, and I will bring it with me. If I'm traveling back, I'll put it all in a big suitcase, or sometimes my parents will ship it to me, which logistically I need to be thinking ahead of when do I need my next shipment of formula, because I need to give my parents enough time to send it to me. And then for my low protein food, I'm able to order it wherever I am.
So just for our international audience, I suppose, when you refer to formula, we are also referring to protein substitutes. It's essentially the same thing, isn't it? Fantastic.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you mentioned that you get a formula shipped to your parents, and then you have to be prepared, I guess, or be organized in terms of how much you need to take as and when you're going. Do you have any practical tips on how to, I suppose, manage PKU when you are traveling so often?
For sure. It definitely depends on what kind of traveling you're doing. Normally, my number one tip is never put your formula in your check bag, but in instances like this, I have to, and it's worked out. I haven't had a problem. Maybe drop a little air tag in there and make sure you can track your bag, but that's a really good tip as well. And just when you're traveling, I also have to drive across the country because I need my car in these places. So driving from Michigan to California takes about 5 days. And in those 5 days, you feel like you're kind of in this interim, like you're never really in one exact spot. So for me, my biggest tip is preparing my food and formula with a cooler and traveling with a cooler for those 5 days when I'm going across the country. So I'm not stopping at fast food restaurants or feel tempted to eat foods that are higher in protein. I have my low protein food in a cooler with me. And I highly recommend pasta salad if you're traveling in a car. That travels really well and can stay cold and doesn't need to be heated up.
That's a really good idea. Do you have any other recipes that you would recommend?
Even like a curry dish doesn't necessarily have to be warmed up, in my opinion. So if it's just a really flavorful pasta dish, that's always my go-to. So something like that.
Great. Because I saw on your social media, which is great, by the way, but I saw that you had, was it almost dehydrated some pasta that you could heat up or pour water over? Was that noodles or something along those lines?
Yes, exactly. So I, over the past few years, I've gotten really into backpacking or hiking when you bring a backpack and everything that you need for a few days has to be in there. You're not going back to civilization for a while. And a lot of outdoor stores will sell pre-dehydrated meals for people that don't have PKU, and they have like 40 grams of protein in them. So I'm not able to eat those, obviously. And even boiling pasta and water in the backcountry when you have limited resources isn't a great option when you're low on water, low on time, low on weight, that you want to keep that backpack really low in weight. So I started dehydrating some food. So all you need is a dehydrator. And then for me, I highly recommend getting like a vacuum seal press. So you can put the food in there, suck it all up, and it's in this small little container. And then all you need to do is add water. Boiling water, hot water works best. But once you add that water, it'll sit there and it refluffs into exactly what it looked like before the food was dehydrated.
Because you have to do a lot of, obviously you have your shakers for your protein substitutes, and obviously they need cleaning. So I've also seen that you have a little hack on bringing little sponges with fairy liquid on them when you go traveling.
Yeah, exactly. That's even a really good tip for hotel rooms. But you can take like just a normal dish sponge, cut it really thin, put one little layer of soap over the top. It'll dry overnight and you can throw it in your bag. It won't get soap everywhere. It'll dry completely. And then take this little sponge, just add water, and you can rinse out your protein supplement cup. And it works perfectly. And then actually last month I washed my formula cup in the ocean. So I don't know how clean the water was, but I used my sponge.
It looked clean.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, maybe if we just take a few steps back. So in terms of working and managing your PKU alongside of that, do you get any support from work in order to do that?
Since I'm traveling so much, I don't really have like a close relationship with my coworkers anymore because I've been traveling. I move around every 6 months, so I don't necessarily have that like great support from my coworkers that one might have if they're in a role for a year and a half, something like that. But I have a lot of experience with explaining PKU because of this, because every 6 months I'm in a new job. And luckily I explain it to nurses, so they have a little bit of healthcare knowledge in the background. But I have an elevator pitch that works perfectly if you ever need to explain PKU in a minute or less. So I just say that PKU is a genetic disorder where my body doesn't process phenylalanine, which is an amino acid in protein. I eat a vegan diet and drink a protein shake that has all the nutrients I need to live without the phenylalanine, that one amino acid. And that's all you need to say. So usually after I say that to my coworkers, they're understanding because I'm always carrying my shaker around. And after that, they kind of understand. And honestly, people are always really intrigued. They love to ask questions. And it's good to have people in your corner that, want to get to know you better. And PKU is really not that hard to explain. It's just, we feel so insecure sometimes. But once you explain it, people want to get to know you more. And everyone has these little things about them. And it honestly just makes us more unique.
Definitely. And what's the most interesting thing that someone has said to you about your PKU when you've done your elevator pitch?
Probably just they're absolutely dumbfounded that I have never had meat in my entire life. They're always like, "You've never had any meat?" No, not in my entire life. People always think that's crazy.
Not even tasted it.
Not even tasted it.
No, but I think as you mentioned there in your elevator pitch, which I really like, is that, explaining it as a vegan diet is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, and as we know, I can't eat everything that a vegan does. It's a little more complicated than that, but it gets the point across and everyone can kind of understand, especially if you're in a situation where you're going out to eat or going to eat in front of these people, it'll answer a bunch of those questions right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a really good point. When you do go out to eat, particularly with your colleagues, if that does happen, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. Typically when I go out to eat, obviously the typical things I like to get, French fries, vegetables. I also do dabble with some veggie sushi. That can be pretty good. But if I'm out to eat with someone I don't know or someone that I've never met before, give them the elevator pitch and just kind of be upfront. Really, people are curious and they just kind of want to know more about you. And people will ask questions. Like if something's outside of the norm, people ask. But I think that's pretty normal behavior. So just feeling confident in yourself and you've always, if you have PKU, you've always lived this way. So just don't be afraid to kind of explain it and talk through it.
And it's nice, isn't it? Because when people ask questions, you get the feeling that they just want to get to know you better.
Exactly. That's how I take it. And you're going to ask them questions right back. And that's like kind of how making friends goes. And so this might be something unique about me that people are really curious about. And honestly, at the end of the day, for me, I like it. Like I said, it makes me feel unique. And it's something that I've found to be a positive in my life, which I don't always feel like that. But overall, PKU is something that I've grown to find to be extremely positive.
Yeah, and that's a lovely way of thinking about it. And I guess you've actually done a lot of advocacy as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Doing advocacy is extremely important for me. My favorite part is when a new parent reaches out to me, and actually someone reached out to me today and said, I just had a baby. My 2-month-old has PKU. Thank you for all these posts. And she's going back on all my Instagrams and seeing me travel and seeing me work and liking all of them. And I know what's going through her head because I'm not a PKU parent myself, which I think is a much harder job than having PKU. But I'm not a PKU parent, but I can't even imagine how stressful receiving that diagnosis would be. And I feel like I do what I do for those new moms and dads out there. I want them to be able to quickly type PKU into their search bar on Instagram and find me and all the other people that post out there and just know like, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay. Just have that little glimmer of hope in the community that me and everyone else that actively posts online is.
It's such a good point, Nicole, because the first thing you will do as a new parent, I would assume, is to Google it. And you might not find the nicest things, but if your name comes up and other people who do great advocacy work, that can really put someone's minds at ease. And especially when you are living so well with PKU, it must really give them a sense of, okay, like you said, everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, I really hope it does give them that sense. And I'm certainly not perfect, and I still have to make choices every day that affect my health. And I have stressors in my life, and I can get anxious as well. But if overall I can look at it as a positive and still do the things that I want to do with my life, I want to be able to show that to other people. And I hope it never comes off as like everything's perfect and wonderful, but like these are my struggles. And honestly, that's another part that I do social media too, is because I can be like, oh, I feel anxious. Maybe this other person is posting about being anxious, and that kind of makes me not feel crazy. Like, it just connects me to the community. So I feel like in a selfish way, I get a lot out of posting as well. But then also in that advocacy sense, that I want to make sure that there's a really safe, positive, friendly place for new parents, new friends of parents and grandparents to go and ask questions.
And if other people want to do the same as you, how would you suggest that they might start?
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I hope everyone posts their PKU adventures online because I love seeing it. It encourages me to keep going. It gives me so many ideas. Half the food that I make is an idea that I got from someone else. Like everyone that posts, it's so amazing. But the number one tip would be to just start. What did you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for lunch? Is there a dish that your mom made you growing up? Your grandma? Like, I want to see that, like, are you drinking your formula on the train going to work? Like, I want to see that because I'm drinking my formula going to work too. Like, it's exciting for me. And even like the bland everyday moments that you think maybe aren't important, like just post that stuff. If you're looking for a community online and you'd like to start being an advocate in that way, post the mundane everyday things because it matters and it matters to me. I want to see.
Yeah, other people want to be able to relate to someone else and be inspired by someone else, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
And you just mentioned social media. So just if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Nicole_PKU.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll make sure to put that in the notes as well. I know that you also done some work with some patient associations. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the NPKUA is one of those associations that I've worked with a little bit and attended every conference except for one because I was too cool as a teenager to drive to my mom or drive with my mom to Indiana. But just the work that's like specifically the NPKUA does here, I think is really important. And any pharmaceutical company that's putting in funds for research towards PKU or different medications or like patient relations, stuff like this podcast, like it means absolutely everything. Like having an outlet like this was something like I never even imagined would be possible, but it's so important to me. And conferences are extremely important. It's not all just business talk and science stuff. Like if you're thinking about attending an event in your area, I highly recommend it. Like I always leave feeling refreshed, new ideas, like a new sense of wanting to be the best me I can be for my health.
Right. So you mentioned that you were once a bit too cool to go to one event. What would you advise, say, someone who might be listening now, who's a teenager, who's not quite sure about going to in-person events? What would your advice be to them?
Absolutely. And I can totally see that. I always say now teenagers scare me a little bit, but I was once a teenager, so I kind of do remember what it was like. If you go to these events, you're able to meet people that may live the same way you do. And if you don't have anyone else in your family that has PKU, you might feel like that's something that you're lacking. That you don't see other people drinking their formula, taking their PKU medication, or eating a low protein diet. At these events, the coolest thing that happens is you eat together and you can finally like see the person's plate next to you look just like yours. And for me, that was just the coolest thing. Like you don't have to leave with like a bunch of new friends if you feel like you're more reserved, but just being there in the moment is seriously so incredible.
That's really nice to say that you don't have to necessarily interact if you don't want to. You can sit back and just watch, but still feel very much part of what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of like the unspoken vibe at different PKU events is that like you're surrounded by people that get it. And whether you're a PKU, like whether you have PKU yourself or you're a parent, like there's a parent of another PKU like child sitting next to you as well. Like no one is gonna understand it like they do.
No. There's nothing like seeing it with your own eyes and your peers being exactly the same as you.
Exactly.
So Nicole, you got a very exciting occasion coming up very soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm getting married in 25 days exactly.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Wedding planning is everything they say it is. It's a lot of fun and it's extremely stressful.
I bet it is. Do you have anyone with PKU coming? Have you had to include that in your wedding planning?
I don't actually, but I have a whole cake to myself. So I'm very excited for that.
You're not going to share with anyone else.
Exactly.
So I suppose just from a PKU perspective, if there's anyone out there who's wanting to plan a wedding themselves, what have you had to take into account, if anything, from a PKU perspective?
That's such a good question. When we were first doing our contract and all the little things you need to think of, it's seriously insane. But one of the things that I wanted to put in there was a little clause that said that the chef will accommodate the bride's PKU diet. And so we put that clause in there, and just in case our coordinator for the venue wasn't working there anymore, that they promised that. So that would always be in there. And of course, everything was fine, but just in case, I wanted that in there. So I am getting low protein pasta with marinara sauce and veggies, and I'm also getting a side of the potatoes that everyone else is getting. So I have my own little meal going on, and all I had to do was ask. And the next time I saw our venue coordinator, she had looked up PKU, and she knew exactly ins and outs, and I barely had to say anything. So people are very accommodating.
Yes. And like you said there, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the worst thing they can say is no. And if they say no, maybe that's not the right venue then.
Exactly. Yeah. They just made me feel so comfortable. And even the hors d'oeuvres, when I got the hors d'oeuvres list to pass out during the cocktail hour, there was actually not one thing on there that I could eat. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, but all I had to do was ask, and they're making a potato dish to pass for the hors d'oeuvres as well.
And at the end of the day, it's your day. So they should be accommodating.
Yeah, for sure. And they have been amazing, and I'm so excited and a little nervous, but I'm really excited.
So we discussed your advocacy journey. We discussed how you manage traveling. But what's your most memorable journey or most memorable moments of traveling with PKU?
My most memorable moment of traveling with PKU was one time I was skiing in California, and we left the car kind of far away, and I packed my formula for the day. And I poured in the powder, poured in the water, shook it up, and tucked it in my coat so I could, ski without a backpack. So it was a perfect plan until it wasn't. So I get onto the chairlift, and I'm going up and up and up. And with the changes in altitude, the top of my formula popped off a little bit. So when we get off the chairlift, I ski off the chairlift, and my formula fell all over the snow below me. But I knew that I could not do a full day of skiing without my PKU formula. So I scooped up all the snow with my formula in it and put it in my shaker bottle and waited for it to melt, and I drank it.
Oh, wow. Very resourceful.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I bet it was nice and cold.
It was.
What might you do different next time?
Oh, yes. Next time I would find water on the mountain where, there's lots of ski lodges. There was plentiful water, so no need to premix.
You live and learn.
You really do.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Nicole, for being on the Vitafriends Voices podcast. It's been a real joy.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, this is so important to me that you give people with PKU and their family members an outlet to talk.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And to you, if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to this podcast and share with anyone you think might benefit from tuning in. Thank you for joining our vibrant community of Vitafriends. And for more information, please visit your local Vitafriends website. We look forward to the next episode.